Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. It was really interesting to hear Roberto's speech, and because I just finished a round of recruiting at IBM Garage for designers, so it was really interesting to hear the other side of the story. So I just have a few slides, very few, because I'm basically talking about myself, so I don't really need slides to do that, but I was told it's easier to follow. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. I don't see you anymore, so I hope you see my screen. I'm talking about myself it's not easy without sounding, I don't know, too full of yourself. So I tried to give it a fun note with this first picture. As you've maybe seen from the flyer, I'm IBM Garage manager. So I'll explain and share with you in a bit what that is. But maybe I'll just take one step back and share with you my background and where my path crossed with Davide, with POLI.design, and with UX. So I have a quite, I would say, weird or diverse background, both in education and then in my career. I'll just try, sorry, to put the timer because I'm really bad with timekeeping. So I just want to see how. So I started my education in London in media studies, actually. So I wanted to study, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to study communication or journalism, so I took my bachelor's there. After that, I moved, I realized I needed some economics background because I wasn't still sure what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I took my master's with a degree at the Copenhagen Business School and in Milan. In management of arts and culture. So this kind of gave me a background mixing my communication skills, PR skills with management and economics. During my studies, I was lucky enough to do some internships. I think Federica's audio is working now, I guess, because I can hear some background voices. So I did different internships, one of which was at Deutsche Bank, right before then starting at IBM. So that was kind of the big change because I moved, I realized that I wanted to switch from an internal staff position, actually in the communications team of Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt, to actually the core business of any company I would end up working in. I actually ended up at IBM quite randomly, I would say, even if I'm not supposed to say that. I was looking for a big corporation with an international network and presence. So IBM had an interesting graduate program. I applied and I got in. I wasn't really sure what I would end up doing, but it was, I really, really liked the people who interviewed me. So that made me think of in the previous speech when you mentioned how important the culture is and the values of a company are. It actually is really, really true because I had two choices on my hand. One was actually Red Bull, so completely different in marketing, and one was IBM in sales. So two completely different companies with completely different people, completely different histories and backgrounds, and core businesses, of course. So I ended up at IBM because of the people that interviewed me. I could identify myself with them, and I could see that I had a lot to learn. And that was one of the main factors why I chose IBM, because I knew I wouldn't get bored easily, which is one of my weaknesses, that I get bored really easily. And IBM is so big, so diverse, and has so different career paths within it that I knew that I would at least stay a few years. So from that moment on, it has been 8 years, but it doesn't feel that long because I have changed different roles. And I started in sales, as I mentioned. And after a few years there, I felt that I wanted to go back to my initial education So get closer to the communications background and to my media studies background. And so, as I mentioned before, IBM has quite diverse teams, business units, and roles. One of which was this IBM iX, which I actually see Federica has crossed as well. So much about LinkedIn and the importance of having everything online. So I think our paths crossed at different moments. But I joined IBM iX. So IBM iX is I would define it the digital agency of IBM. It is a consultancy team that works with designers in its team, and that's how I linked then my speech to you actually. It is a digital agency with designers in its team, focused basically on customer experience and digital transformation projects. So that was a really important step in my background, in my career, because it really was a change of path. In my first 4 years at IBM, I was doing sales, I was selling hardware, I was selling software licenses to clients, which I understood very little about. And then after 4 years, I realized I didn't like what I was doing, and I wanted to change the direction of my skills, actually, of where I was heading to. And that's why I tried to change internally, and I succeeded. And I ended up at IBM iX. But when I was there, I realized that I had some gaps. I mean, I knew what customer experience was. I had some internship experiences. I had worked from the sales part on that project. But one thing is to see it from the outside, and another one is to work actually in a team with designers, with developers, to actually make projects happen. And this is when I ended up at the higher education course of UX, which was, I don't want to say life-saving, because maybe that's a bit too much, but it really, really opened my eyes, and actually it made my communication and my collaboration with my colleagues within the team so much easier. I'm not a UX designer now. I wouldn't say that, and I would be offending all of my colleagues who actually are designers, and most of you. But it really helped me speak the language of the people I was working with. I had a business view of what my clients needed, of what our clients were looking for, what the advantages of our projects could be, how to sell them to our clients. But then I didn't understand the needs, the priorities, the way of thinking, and the vocabulary of the designers within our team. And this is why the course, the UX course, was so important to me, because it really gave me the tools and skills I needed to work with my team more effectively. After 2 years in that team, I switched again internally. I was given the opportunity to work with our local CEO in Italy as an assistant. So that is another bracket in my career. And I worked 1 year with him, which was an amazing opportunity to see IBM from the top with all the strategic and corporate decisions. But now let me get to what I do now, which is actually the interesting part, where I get back to working with designers again. I'm part of the IBM Garage team, which is based at the IBM studios. Maybe those of you who have lived or live or have passed through Milan have seen this building. Sorry, I switched off my phone. Have seen this building in the heart of Gaulenti, this wooden building right there. We just moved in there 2 years ago. So we actually got to use it only 1 year due to the pandemic. But in there we have our IBM Garage. The IBM Garage is basically, this is what it looks inside. So it's pretty cool. It's a space where we can work with our clients' workshops, and it's really thought for and designed for co-creation and for workshop sessions and for teamwork within our teams. But basically, what the IBM Garage does, it is a team of around 50 people within IBM, which are supposed to act as a startup within the big corporation that IBM is. And let me just stop sharing so you see maybe my face as well. It is a small startup within the corporation, so it has the structure of a big corporation, or actually it has the corporate skeleton in the outside, but inside we have all the skills and profiles that are needed to actually make a startup project happen. And this is when my UX skills, or actually, no, I wouldn't say it's skill, but knowledge are being useful again, because in my team we have the most different roles. We have developers, we have solution architects, we have data scientists, we have automation specialists. So we have all the technical skills you would expect from IBM, but we also have consultants, service designers, and UX designers within our team. So the nice part is that we are quick, and we can actually make projects happen. So we really can act as a small startup because we can easily put together all the skills we need and have one designer on board working with the consultant, understanding the client, and having the developer develop the solution at the same time. So we actually make small prototypes happen for our clients. And I love my job. It's really fun because we keep on changing projects. It's a 3-month project. We get a small prototype to work and show the client what technology can actually do, but without putting technology at the heart. So we actually start, as Roberto was saying, or I don't remember if it was Sophia, but somebody mentioned it earlier, thinking about the people behind everything. And we start from the people. And then, I don't need to explain to you what design thinking and that whole methodology is, but we really start from the user and then end up using the technology, which may sound a bit obvious, but for IBM, it's a big thing, not starting from the technology and working the other way around. So this is the big investment we are making right now. And we have actually built this team from scratch starting January. So that's why I was referring to the recruitment skills and the hiring activities, which you were discussing earlier, and I could really see many of the things Roberto was referring to when I was doing the interviews. I was lucky enough to have a senior designer helping me, because clearly I wasn't the one doing skill assessments on the portfolio, but many of the things are the ones that actually pop to your eye when you get an application. So we were looking for people who were not only good UX designers, but they had to be flexible to work on different projects, because 1 month you work on, I don't know, the customer experience within the bank, and then the next month you work on an email classification project for the back office of public sector client. So it really changes a lot. So we needed flexible people, and we needed designers who were able to work with other functions. So not only with designers, and speak the same language. So the problem I had, so not only speak the business language, but learn to speak the language that the other professionals within the team speak, because each one of them is involved in all the stages of the project. And so this was an essential element, an essential aspect in our interviews. We needed people who knew what they were doing, but who were open to change. And that's why we actually got now a great team of mix of skills of service designers, UX and UI designers. I know I shouldn't mix UX and UI, apologies for that. But we have people who have really diverse backgrounds, agency backgrounds, corporate backgrounds, so consultancy backgrounds, apologies, and startup backgrounds, because all of that put together is of great value for big companies like IBM. I mean, big corporations like ours, they need to change, and they want to change. And to do that, people from the outside need to come in. And so that's what I keep on telling to my team now. We're around 40 people. Many of them are newly graduated, others are professionals. and they have all different ways of seeing what IBM does, but also of seeing what we can do, what solutions we can design. So, so this is, I'm not sure if I reached the 20 minutes, but this is a brief summary of how UX came into my career path, came into my education, and how it is still a big part of my daily work, even if I'm not a designer.
Thank you very much, Claudia. This was a very important witness, because I think that you define scenarios that are not obvious for people that are starting the design career and in the UX career. Since we are talking also to UX and psychology, brand new professionals, I think this could be useful. I had a question for you as well. It emerges in your story the importance of a shared lexicon with the team you are working with, and also the importance of a design culture inside the organization in order to do a better job. What do you think about this idea of design culture? Do you think that it could be challenging to enter into an organization that doesn't have this design culture, or maybe this could be even a heavier and interesting challenge? I don't know, what are your thoughts about it?
I think it is a huge challenge. It is a huge challenge for us within IBM, but also I see it for many of the clients we work with. I mean, IBM, most of our biggest clients are either from the public sector or from financial services. So you can easily imagine how slow they are to change and how maybe traditional they are in the way of working and using design. So I'm sorry if I keep on referring back to Roberto, but I think our speeches just perfectly link to each other. The way we try to do it, and that's what I keep on telling my team, is the show not tell. I mean, you might find, a 50-year-old colleague at IBM who tells you we've done it that way for years, and they might be suspicious if you say, let's start from a workshop with the client, or let's start from the user, let's turn everything around and start the other way around, or let's focus on the user experience of the solution and let's not take the IBM dashboard for granted, but customize it for the user. And you might not find an open door or an open ear on the underside, but once you do it, that's what I just told 2 days ago a designer of my team, just do it. And then when they have it in front of them, they have to recognize the value it actually brings. And I tell them to create the wow effect. You're not expecting the solution. People don't imagine what they can get out of it because they don't know it. But once they see it, then they want the second one.
Thank you. That's a good advocating position. So thank you once again for your contribution.